Hi everybody, it's Crystal. Welcome to my channel, Bagoday Crochet. So today I have a stitch tutorial for you. Very easy, simple stitch and quite beautiful. So this is called the large mixed cluster stitch. Now I do have a tutorial for the regular mixed cluster stitch, but this is known as the large as it's made with a double crochets versus half double crochets. It's actually quite beautiful, and I do like it a little bit better than, I like both, but I do like it personally a little bit better than the small. As for it goes faster and you can see the clusters more visible with this one. So this is the front side of it, as you can see, and here is the back side. Actually both sides are quite pretty, so you could choose either one for your project, but this is technically the front side. So this stitch is great for anything that you'd want because it's pretty solid, mostly. You can't see my hand too much back there, and it is an easy 2-row repeat. So do you guys want to go ahead and get started on this? I'll show you the edges. Pretty nice and straight there. I think they turn out nice and straight. Good. All right, let's do this. All right, so for this particular stitch tutorial, for the sample that I used Red Heart Soft, which is just a 100% acrylic medium weight number 4 yarn. And in case you're interested, the color that I have here is called Seafoam. And then for this stitch tutorial purposes, I'm going to be using my golden wand here in the size I, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. But depending on what you're making, whether it be blanket or scarf or anything, you choose whatever yarn you want to use, and you use the stitch that the yarn recommends if you're using this stitch to create your own design. Okay, so this stitch is done in any even number of stitches. All right, so you start with a slip knot on your hook. All right, let's do this. Got it on there. Now when I say even number, you just chain an even number of stitches. All right, so like I said, whether it be a scarf that you're making or a blanket that you're making, you make your beginning chain as long as you want that piece to be. So say you want to make a scarf. I generally do my scarf 6 to 8 inches wide, sometimes 10. It's really up to you, however big you want your scarf. And that's how you chain in a multiple 2 to the length that you want your scarf. You want a blanket, of course you're gonna need a lot bigger chain than what I'm showing you right now, but make sure it's done in an even number of stitches. All right, so for row 1, I generally like to start most of my stitches on a base row of single crochet or double. So we're going to do a base row of single crochet for row 1. We are going to do a single crochet in the second stitch from the hook. So remember, we do not count this stitch on our hook. So that would be number 1, and here's number 2. We're going to go right into that stitch, and we're going to do a single crochet. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet in every single stitch for the length of our chain. So row 1, 1 single in every stitch until you get to the end of your row. No matter how long your chain is, it's 1 single in every stitch until you make it to the end. All right, so now we're going to start row 2. So row 2 and 3 are the repeat rows, and they're very easy to do. So for row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. So that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. It does not count as a stitch here or anywhere for the rest of this stitch. So we're going to work right back into this very first stitch here, and we're going to do a double crochet. So go right into it and work a double crochet into that first stitch like that. And now we're going to start the mixed cluster stitch. So it's actually a double crochet 3 together, but we do a little bit of a skip a stitch in between. Are you ready? It's very easy. We're going to yarn over and we're going to go back into that same stitch that we just worked in. Okay, and we're going to draw up a loop, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through those first 2 loops. We're going to skip 1 stitch and jump to the next. We're going to yarn over, so skip this one and jump to the next. Go into that one and draw up a loop. You got 4 loops. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2. And then we're going to yarn over again and go back into that same stitch. Draw up a loop. You got 5 loops now. We're going to yarn over and go through 2, which will leave you 4. Yarn over and go through all 4 loops and chain 1. That is the large mixed cluster stitch. And this is what we're going to do all the way across. Let's do it again. So we're going to yarn over and we're going to go back into the same stitch that we just finished in. And we're going to draw up a loop. You see we got 3 loops. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2 loops. Now we're going to skip 1 stitch and we're going to work in the next. We're going to yarn over, skip, go into the next, draw up a loop. You got 4 loops there. Yarn over and go through the first 2. Then we're going to yarn over again and go back into that same stitch, draw up a loop. So you got 5 loops there. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2, which will leave us with 4. Yarn over and go through all 4 and chain 1. There you go. There's another one. Let's do it again. Want to? All right. We're going to yarn over, go back into the exact same stitch that we just finished in, and we're going to draw up a loop. Got 3 loops. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2. Now we're going to yarn over, skip 1 stitch and go into the next. Draw up a loop. You got 4 loops there. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 2. And we're going to yarn over again and go back into that exact same stitch again. Draw up a loop. 5 loops on your hook. Yarn over and go through the first 2, which will leave us with 4 loops on our hook. Yarn over and go through all 4, and then make sure you chain 1 afterwards. Just like that. And this is what we're going to do all the way down until we get near the end. Let's do it one more time. Yarn over, go back into that same stitch, draw up a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, skip 1 stitch and go into the next. Draw up a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2 loops. Yarn over, go back into that same stitch again. Draw up a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2. 4 loops remain. Yarn over and go through all 4 and chain 1. All right, so I'm going to repeat this pattern until I get near the end of the row, and that is where I will meet back up with you. All right, I'm coming to the end of row 2. I just did my last cluster and I chained 1, and I have 2 stitches that remain. I'm going to show you how we finish off this row. So make sure you chain 1 after this cluster, and we're going to yarn over, go back into that same stitch that we just finished in, and draw up a loop. Yarn over and go through the first 2 loops. We're going to skip this one, and in the last stitch, we're going to yarn over and work. Draw up a loop and yarn over and go through the first 2. Again, we're going to yarn over, go into that same last stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2. So it's just like the regular cluster. 4 loops remain. There's one difference. It's very important. Make sure you do not chain 1 after this last cluster stitch. Do not chain 1. What you do is yarn over and go directly right back into that same stitch again and do a double crochet. And that is how you end row 2. Beautiful. All right, let's start row 3, which is the last repeat of the row. We are going to chain 1, which again does not count as a stitch. And now we're going to be working a single crochet in every stitch across. So we're going to go right back into this first stitch and we're going to single crochet. And then we're going to single crochet into the top of the next cluster. And then we have this chain 1 space. All right, now we're not going to go into the space right here. We're going to go into the chain 1 right there and single crochet. Just like that. Yep. And then single crochet into the top of the cluster. And then into the chain 1 space. It's right here on the side of the cluster. Into the top of the cluster. Into the chain 1 space on the side of the cluster. Into the top of the cluster, and we're going to repeat this until we make it to the end of our row. Oh. Just like that. So single crochet into the top of every cluster and into every chain 1 space until we make it to the end. All right, I'm coming to the end, and your last single crochet should go into the top of that double crochet on the end. And that is it. Now you just repeat rows 2 and 3. So again, I'm going to start row 4. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and it's going to be a repeat of row 2. So we're going to go ahead and yarn over, and we're going to do a double crochet into that first stitch like that. And then we're going to start our mixed cluster by yarning over and going back into that same stitch and draw up a loop and yarn over and go through the first 2 loops. We're going to skip 1 and yarn over, so skip, go into the next one, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2. Again, we're going to yarn over and go back into that same stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2. 4 loops remain, yarn over and go through all 4 and chain 1. And we're going to do this all the way down to the end of the row again. Remember, we are just repeating row 2. All right, I'm gonna meet back up with you at the end. All right, I'm coming to the end here. Remember, this is row 4. It's just a repeat of row 2. I'm going to show you how to end it again. So I have 2 stitches left. I just did a mixed cluster and I chained 1. So I'm going to do another mixed cluster here. I'm going to yarn over, go back into that same stitch that we just finished in, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2. I'm going to skip this stitch, and in the last stitch, I'm going to yarn over and go in and draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, again yarn over, go into the last stitch, draw up a loop, yarn over and go through the first 2, yarn over and go through all 4. This is very important, this part here. Always remember, do not chain 1 at this last cluster. Just yarn over and go directly back into the same stitch again and double crochet. So that's how you end row 2. All right, every time. And then again, we're going to, for row 5, we're going to chain 1 and turn and repeat row 3, which is the single crochet row all the way across. And again, make sure you're single crocheting not in the chain 1 space, but actually into the chain 1 itself. All right, so easy peasy, and it's very beautiful. Now after a few repeats, oh, sorry about that, you'll start to look like this. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous stitch. You know, I love this, and I think I'm going to make it one of my top faves, actually. I have a lot of favorite stitches. I think this is absolutely stunning. I have a lot of stuff made on it on my channel. It's just gorgeous for anything. So I hope that you enjoyed my tutorial. I hope that you were able to follow along. If you were, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It is free to subscribe. And I have lots and lots and lots of crochet tutorials. I have anything that you could ever want to make and multiples of them. So please, free to subscribe, access to all my videos, all my tutorials, and we like to talk about yarn a lot as well. So hit that like button as well if you enjoyed, and leave me a comment below. And I'll see you guys on my next video. All right. Bye, guys.